To everything and to everyone, there is a time and season. There is a time to plant, there is a time to harvest, there is a time for the sun to shine, there is a time for the sun to set, there is a time for the moon to shine, there is a time for the moon to go into hiding. So, also our lives. There's a time for us to cry, there's a time for us to laugh, there's a time for us to celebrate, there's a time for us to be sober. Whichever one it is that we are in our lives, we need to understand that none of them actually comes to stay. They always come to pass. My name is Laoli Bitoye, and today I'd like to emphasize on seasons. While I was on campus, this is confession of a brother. Not necessarily confession, but just sharing my life experience, some of the ones that were not so palatable. On campus, I had an extra year, and owing greatly to some poor choices that I made out of, should I use the word poor guidance, out of poor guidance. I was into a whole lot of stuff and good stuff. Along the way, I started dwindling in my focus on academics because I found another passion, and I started pouring my attention there while I gave very little attention to my academics. And I was still doing fairly okay in my academics. I wasn't lagging behind, but of course, the attention started affecting. And therefore, at the end of the day, I had no choice than to have to take another session. Now, it was a really rough period, a really, really rough one. And here's what I meant. First was the part of coming to accept the reality that I was going to be staying on campus for an extra year, knowing that all my colleagues were going to go on ahead. Now, there's that thing that stings you each time you realize something that painful. Every day I walked around like the entire weight of the world was on my shoulders. And going through that period was really difficult. Really difficult for me. But not just that now. Even after that was over, then the extra year itself came. And being on campus with my supposed juniors was a bit difficult. But then I said a bit largely because I realized early this lesson I'm sharing today, that it's happening, that yes, I'm going to be having an extra year, and I can decide to either take that extra year in misery, in depression, with the entire weight of God on my shoulders, looking downcast and looking dejected and frustrated, or I can decide to accept the responsibilities of my actions and accept reality. This is what it is, and face it squarely, face it happily, face it with much more deliberacy this time around. So I decided to do that. Unlike some of my other colleagues who also had the same predicament, some of them wouldn't show up in schools, wouldn't show up in class, wouldn't show up for tests. And when we would discuss, they would tell me, no, they're not feeling comfortable showing up and being around their juniors, and people still seeing them, that they're around, and they just need to keep up an appearance. Alright. And when people ask them, they just said, oh no, I came to do something in school. Yeah, it's not something to be proud of. But then it's also not a license for you to deny yourself and live in depression and trying to create a mirage of what is not really there. So It was really tough. Yes, I would repeat, I would emphasize that as many times as I need to. But taking strength in the fact that I had accepted my reality and I was going to be deliberate about working towards it really helped me a great deal. And I found support in people around. To anyone who asked me, I was like, oh, I have an extra year, I need to finish up. So I was always going to class, I was always going to do my tests, assignments, and the rest. And this time around, I was able to actually clear it up at once because I knew what my error was and I knew exactly what I had to do to clear it out. But the main story here is the fact that in one of those days while on campus, a friend of mine, alright, or yes, he's a friend, but he's more of a friend to my friend, alright, who was my colleague. He was going through some hard times. He didn't have an extra year. It was before the extra year. He was going through some hard times, and then his roommate, who was my friend and my classmate, told him to come talk to me because they couldn't really. They've been trying to encourage him. They've been trying to get him to just shake off the fact that he had a carryover course, but he couldn't really shake it, and he couldn't shake it largely because he was depressed. He felt everything was over. He was scared of having an extra year. Of course, everybody was scared of having an extra year, and it was fine. So when they asked him to come talk to me, he called me up one day and was like, we need to talk. Like, oh, there's a problem. Like, no, not at all. So we finally met up, and the question he asked me, apparently my colleagues had told him that I was having an extra year, and he was puzzled about how, despite knowing that I have an extra year, I am still able to go about my other activities. I'm still able to put up a smile. I'm still able to actually walk around and talk to people, encourage people, still attend fellowship as I used to, still carry the same energy that I always do. And it was like, how do you do it? How do you still stay sane? How do you still go about doing all these things even with everything you're going through, even with the reality of knowing that you're going to be around for another year? And I smiled. And here's the summary of what I told him. There is nothing I can do about what has happened. This is my reality right now. I would rather accept it and face it squarely and be done with it and live a happy life while I'm doing it. Or I can decide to stay in misery and depressed and still go through that same period and probably mess it up and come back again. It came to pass. I will not always have an extra year. It's just for a season and it will pass. So, everything that happens to us is for a season. But the most important thing we need to know is, in that season, we should take charge of that season. We should take charge of everything we do in that season. No matter what happens, be sure that you don't let the season pass you by and leave you with scars that will stay even after the season is gone. There are rough times in our lives when we are at the lowest of the lows. Those are vulnerable moments. Nobody wants to be in those moments, but they come anyway. So what we do in those times matters. How we handle those periods, how we handle our emotions, the decisions we make in those periods, they matter a lot. We shouldn't make decisions based on how bad we feel, based on how this current situation is. It won't always be like that. It's going to change. It's going to pass. See, no matter how terrible the choices you've made and the circumstances you're finding yourself in right now, they are going to pass. And it came to pass. Before, I used to think that phrase meant that, oh, and it came to happen. No. I came to realize that it meant that, and it came to go. It came to pass. When something passes, it means it's going along and it's not going to stay. So if your season is coming, it's going to pass. You're broke right now. You won't always be broke. So don't live your life and make decisions as a broke person. You're feeling unhappy right now. You won't always be unhappy. So don't talk to people and make them feel you're an unhappy person. You're having some serious challenges or you're feeling angry right now. You won't always be angry. So don't talk to everybody and pour out your anger. And after you're done being angry, the effects of your anger and the things you did while you were angry will still linger on. If you break a plate while you were angry, by the time you're done being angry, the plate would not be mended. It will still be broken. So it will always pass. But what we do in those seasons matters. What we do when we're happy, what we do when we're sad, what we do when we're angry, when we're frustrated, what we do in the seasons when we're broke, in the season when we're grieving, in the season when we've lost everything. What we do counts. It really does. So I encourage you, know your season. Own your season. Live life through your season. Don't just exist it. Don't just wish it to pass. Don't just wish it's going to just go and you just want to close your eyes and at the end of the day it's gone. Take responsibility for your season. Live a deliberate life in your season. So that when the season is gone, you will still have a life. You will be stronger. You will be better because you survived it. Because you lived through it. It didn't just pass. It didn't just exist through it. You lived through it. You learned through it. Our seasons are meant to make us stronger. But only when we actually live through it. Not when we exist through it. Seasons will always come and go in our lives. So if something comes, it's definitely going to go. So what comes after it is up to us. There is a time for the sun to rise. There is a time for the sun to set. What we do when the sun rises matters. So also what we do when the sun sets. My name is Lauli Bitoye, and this is a new season for us.